Spirits in the Material World, Healing and Transformation Through Consciousness, Part 1. The tendency to view the human body as a machine, composed of matter and regulated biochemically, has become widespread since the dawn of Cartesian thinking in the 17th century. This materialistic view flies in the face of so-called primitive ways of understanding our physical bodies and the material realms in general as merely biospiritual epiphenomena created and sustained by spiritual energy. Fortunately, over the last several decades, more and more thinkers have become disillusioned with the limitations and dangers of materialistic thought. Guided by an inner knowing that such a restrictive mentality, divorced from meaning or purpose, only serves to obscure the important truth that humans are, to quote Sting, spirits in the material world. Many individuals and groups have contributed to a renaissance in how we envision ourselves and our environment. This renaissance has impacted and in many cases revolutionized numerous fields of study, often foregrounding the ancient wisdom that behind everything we perceive exists a blueprint of conscious energy. Such a revelation is the basis for psychology's focus on unity consciousness, physics' long-time obsession with a unified theory, and biology's realization that DNA constitutes a morphogenetic information field that unites the human species much like the internet. The fascinating new science of quantum bioholography accepts as its core premise that human beings are, in essence, holograms composed of intersecting frequencies of energy transduced and directed by DNA. This line of thinking, supported by compelling theory and evidence, has led physician Richard Gerber, author of Vibrational Medicine, to state that humans are crystallized or precipitated light. Quantum bioholography is related to the emerging field of wave genetics, a leading-edge science that employs what has been called torsion energy generated by sound and light waves to stimulate a self-healing potential in DNA. This science recognizes that our bioenergy blueprint, which we can access ourselves by stimulating DNA through linguistic means, holds the key to permanent healing and radical transformation. Going deeper. Allergy elimination technique, of which Dr. Devi Namboodrapad's version was the first and remains the most famous, derives from the homeopathic discovery that bioenergy signatures can be imprinted in tiny glass vials with the help of an electroacupuncture device. For instance, the frequency for an allergen such as sugar can be held permanently in a vial containing pure water and a drop of alcohol. The immune system's response to the vial is practically indistinguishable from its reaction to the allergen. Although their cause remains unexplained, allergies are defined as chemical, environmental, or nutritional sensitivities that derange the immune system, contributing to a variety of chronic ailments. Given the role such factors as certain controversial and invasive allopathic interventions that have been in the news a lot lately play in creating many sensitivities, however, a more accurate definition of allergies sees them as potentially resulting from induced autoimmune conditions, not the other way around. Another fuzzy area in the theory behind the majority of allergy elimination techniques concerns the nature of bioenergy, which comes across as a nebulous concept. I hope to shed more light on bioenergy in this video series. An allergy elimination technique, whose ability to produce tangible results is attested to by the fact that it's used by thousands of alternative doctors. The patient holds the vial containing the allergen's energy signature while the practitioner performs acupressure along the spine in order to initiate a clearing by way of the nervous system. The idea, similar to that of acupuncture, is to eliminate blockages that keep bioenergy, however defined, from flowing freely through the body. In theory, clearings reprogram the immune system to accept substances formerly rejected as allergens. Bioset improved on Namboodrapad's approach by recognizing that if it's possible to clear a person using one vial at a time, it should be possible to clear with multiple vials. You can clear sugar allergies alongside Candida albicans, which can feed on sugar, and also add vials that represent the pancreatic system, since insulin and sugar are interrelated. Hypothetically, you can clear even for heavy metals and other factors that might be hindering pancreatic function. In the midst of my nearly decade-long chronic autoimmune illness, I was greatly encouraged by this approach, especially after some of my allergies began to wane. I enthusiastically underwent allergy elimination treatments for approximately a year. Unfortunately, after a short-lived plateau, I found myself sliding downhill again. My chronic fatigue was inching its way back. I was losing many of the foods I'd partially recovered, and most frustrating of all, I was experiencing a variety of new symptoms. My professional observation as a former practitioner of allergy elimination technique led me to believe that my experience of improvement followed by losing ground wasn't uncommon. While allergy elimination technique can work wonders, For seriously immunocompromised individuals, long-term exposure to allergy clearing sometimes appears to weaken the immune, irritate the nervous, and overstimulate the adrenal systems. Without a doubt, this was my personal experience. The reason for such shortcomings is straightforward. Traditional allergy clearings work through the nervous system, but in order to reset our bioenergy blueprint, where allergy-producing distortions are imprinted and establish a clean slate for permanent healing and transformation, we must go deeper. Indeed, we must go all the way to the regulator of the energetic patterns, both dysfunctional and healthy, that manifest in our bioenergy blueprint, DNA. Only by properly activating DNA is it possible to reestablish the systemic harmony and coherence necessary for sustained well-being. In order to stimulate the self-repair mechanism in the supposedly inactive portion of DNA, we can employ sound combined with light waves of torsion energy, generated linguistically, field testing. Soon after I began performing a version of allergy elimination technique, 4 critical factors converged to lay the theoretical foundation for a clearer comprehension of bioenergy as well as my own work in DNA activation. For starters, and most crucially, I met my life partner Lee, who provided me with tremendous support in both my ongoing healing journey and intensive research that began around this time. With wonderful serendipity, I met her in the health and body care section of our local health food store. Later, as our relationship grew, Lee came to work as an assistant in my office. Her extensive background in herbology, nutrition, homeopathy, flower essences, and energy medicine came into play early and often as we began field testing our ideas about the bioenergy blueprint and DNA. A second factor associated with my stint with allergy elimination technique that played a role in shaping what I later would call the Regenetics Method was simply an observation. The very fact that Lee and I were using bioenergy to perform clearings that by themselves were capable of reducing allergies and providing other palpable benefits was proof positive that bioenergy can have a measurable impact on the body-mind-spirit complex and its functioning. To medical experts who categorically dismiss the hundreds of thousands of success stories associated with energetic therapies as merely examples of the placebo effect, it has been countered that the same can be said of the curative effects of many pharmaceuticals and even surgical procedures. This point has been made eloquently and emphatically by a number of medical doctors and researchers, including respected cardiologist and author Larry Dossey. In fact, rather than an aberration to be belittled and ignored, the placebo effect remains an open invitation to explore the extraordinary ability of consciousness to change physical reality, in many cases replacing a medical death sentence with a state of glowing health. Never was it more obvious that bioenergy profoundly affects the body than when an allergy elimination session instantly set off a major detoxification or healing crisis in recipients. This sometimes startling phenomenon, which Lee and I observed and experienced personally on a frequent basis, fueled our desire to find a more integrated way to address distortions in the bioenergy blueprint and facilitate healing. Thirdly, it's worth emphasizing that we were employing a type of muscle testing known as kinesiology to determine allergies, sensitivities, underlying toxic factors, pathogenic elements, and emotional traumas. These so-called blockages then were cleared energetically, at times quite successfully and other times less so, through allergy elimination technique. Over the decades since 1964, when American chiropractor George Goodhart first observed that a weak muscle could be treated using non-physical methods and its strength significantly improved, kinesiology has constituted the predominant form of energetic assessment used by alternative healthcare professionals worldwide. There are literally hundreds of spins on kinesiology. Lee and I experimented with a lot of them as we conducted over a year's worth of exhaustive field tests with each other and our clients in order to map the human bioenergy blueprint. Fourth and finally, many of the ideas Lee and I field tested were suggested by my extensive reading. Out of this mountain of material, many pieces of which made their way into Book 1 on the Regenetics Method, Conscious Healing, came numerous questions that seemed to me then, as they do now, essential to understanding true health and wellness. The 6 primary questions we sought answers to through kinesiology and other ways of knowing were: 1. What is the nature of bioenergy? 2. What would a map of our bioenergy blueprint look like? 3. What is DNA? 4. Is there a relationship between the bioenergy blueprint and DNA? 5. What role, if any, does DNA play in mediating between our bioenergy blueprint and our biology? 6. How might it be possible to activate DNA so as to correct distortions in the bioenergy blueprint and thus facilitate healing and transformation? Enjoy the ebook of the international bestseller from which this video was adapted with your free trial at solakmansubstack.com. Explore the revolutionary healing science, NEXUS, of the Regenetics Method at phoenixregenetics.org.